Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Edna White, your host of Keeping It Real on Purpose. And today, our esteemed guest is none other than Dani Rosenblad James. She is a mind and body coach. She's also an author of The Wandering Heart, a tale of misfit traveling in life's wilderness. I'm ready to hear that. Audience, I like it all. So, welcome to the show, Dani.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Edna.
I am so glad you're here. So we were talking pre-show. You are from Sweden. We are global, guys. Global Sweden. You're my first Sweden. I'm so excited about that. Just tell us what it is like today. What does it look like outside? What does it feel
Yeah,
like?
yeah. So originally I'm actually from the States, but I moved here 6 years ago, and the weather here, it is 10 p.m. right now. So
Wow.
it's pretty dark out. It's
Okay.
been getting really cold.
Okay.
So it's feeling already feels like fall weather.
Really.
Yeah.
What is cold to you?
Oh, I guess. Okay, let's see. We're gonna talk in Fahrenheit. I think it's been around 50s, 60s here.
Oh, that's your fall.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What's your winter numbers?
It's it's pretty low.
Okay. All right. All right. Maybe I won't go to Sweden.
I guess you have to come in the summertime, then it's
Yes,
around
I got to come in the
70s,
summer. That's it. That's
70s,
it.
80s.
Tell us about mind and body coaching. What's that all about?
Yeah. So the reason that I became a mind and body coach was I learned so much from my own experiences because I went through a traumatic brain injury and I was healing from it for 10 years. So from that, I learned all these different ways, modalities, and tools that we have within ourselves to help ourselves. And that's why I started becoming a mind and body coach. So with this, you connect the mind and body together. You get them to work together. You listen to your body and you also know how to calm down your
That's
mind, your
good.
ego, and things like that.
That's
Um,
good.
but yeah,
I like that.
it's a lot of things that we don't necessarily think about, like how
Yeah,
it's so important. So it's like one of the things that is very important for us to do is treat ourselves like we're a kid. Remember, like,
oh,
oh,
that's good.
how are you doing today? Oh, you don't
Yes.
feel good. That's okay. It's okay
Yes.
to stay in bed. It's
Yes.
okay. Oh, are you hungry? Maybe you should eat.
That's
Oh,
good.
are you thirsty? Like just something so simple like that makes a whole lot of difference for our lives.
Yeah, that's good. I like that you're I always talk about my child. I always got to make sure my child is good because it took me a while to kind of help her grow up to my age. And I always make sure that I'm checking in with her, because sometimes she may not feel good today. And I have to, and it's me. And, I have to say, hey, this person that's living here doing this, always doing this, has to calm down and meet that I don't feel good today and just take it easy. So that's good. Becoming aware, using your mind to become aware of your body and listening to your body, that is important. Let's talk about that because we don't do it enough.
Yeah, that's 100% true. There are so many times, especially when I was healing, that I kept pushing myself and I didn't listen to my body. So what ended up happening is my body's like, hey, you're not going to listen to me. I'm going to give you extreme pain where you don't have any choice but to go and lay down for a while. And then I think about it and I'm like, maybe I should have done this like an hour ago. But that's kind of how we are as humans is
Yes.
we tend to push, and if we listen to our body a lot more, we would be able to avoid the pain through our bodies, physical and mental things that we
Hmm.
go through because we're not listening to our bodies because they're actually quite smart. It's just that because like when we get a pain in our leg or in our
Yeah.
arm or something, there's a reason that that's happening.
Right.
And so like what you need to do is go within yourself and be like, why do I have a pain here? and
Yeah.
then you just calmly wait for the answer and you'll
Right.
usually figure it out.
Right. That's so very true. I'm telling you, in my 50s, I had to change my lifestyle eating because I went to China, was eating clean, believe it or not. I was eating clean, and I came back to America and I ate all the foods that I didn't have there. My kids made me this smorgasbord, and I got very sick and I had a seizure.
Ah,
Um, yeah, didn't know that I was that gluten affected, and um, thankfully I had this amazing doctor who was very holistic in her approach. And she walks over to me. She goes, "What did you have today?" And I said, "Well, I had this and that." Then I told her I was from China. They did all the testing, make sure I didn't have anything. She's like, "That's not it." She, "Tell your son to read the package to me." So he's got all the garbage. He's in the garbage, digging in the garbage, and he's reading the labels. And she says, "I got a feeling you might be gluten intolerant because there's a lot of things that's going on with the food that he was sharing with me. Let's don't do a couple things. Let's not eat anything with wheat." This started 7 years ago.
mm,
And I was like, it was very hard in the beginning, and I started getting stomach problems. It was just so very hard, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the pain was crippling, right, crippling. And I was like, even when I had my period, it wasn't like this. It's like, what the heck? But I had to start listening to my body. And the one thing I did learn in all of that, my tongue would know first if I've eaten something that was going to mess up, going to bother my stomach. And it was like, as soon as my tongue sensed it, I was like, "Ooh, can't have that," because there's a little bit of something and I can't have. And it's so important to don't override your body. Listen to your body. It's so important, very important, and we seem to do that too often.
yeah. Yeah, there's this awesome tip that I actually had learned that involves food. So it's think of if you want to eat some cheese, you put that in your hand and then you hold your hand close to your stomach and you're standing up when you're doing this and you close your eyes and
Mm-hmm.
your body will slowly start going forward or backward. And so
Oh, damn,
if it's
that's
if
good.
it starts going forward, that lets you know that, oh yes, I can eat this. If you
Oh,
start
Danny,
going
that's
back
really good.
if you start going backwards, that means that your body doesn't need that food. So you should definitely start trying it out.
Girl, you know it. I don't eat out at all because I'm very fearful. I'm very fearful of getting sick.
Yeah,
So
there's a
I'm
whole lot
always
more
at
in
home
it.
cooking, learning new things about cooking. And I'm just, I really am in tune with my body now. Even just a little headache, okay, okay, what's that about? What's that about? Where's that coming from? What did I eat or what did I do that's making this happen? And I'm always talking to my body. It's important to do that.
Mm,
So I know that you talk about three topics, and I want to get into these topics. And one that interests me a lot is overcoming traumatic brain injury. Could you talk about that for our audience and just share that? Because I just became involved with an organization here on Long Island that you know um, deals with traumatic brain injury and how that's so different from being having developmental disabilities is so different. Could you talk about that part of it?
yeah, definitely. I've just recently reached out to Brain Injury of Association of America,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and they were telling me how they see this as a hidden disability, and all the things I went through, I can completely see why they would say that.
right.
So when this happened, it was from a 7-car pileup. I was
Oh, God,
driving from South Dakota and I was on my way to Northern California because I used to work there.
right.
And this happened in Wyoming. Visibility was less than a mile.
Oh,
It
wow.
was black ice on the highway. And all I remember is going, oh crap. And then lights went out. I went on autopilot. My small truck ended up hitting the pile of cars and the semi truck blocking all the lanes. And I did a 360 and ended up hitting the back of my truck on that too. Now, mind you, my truck turned into a convertible at this time
Ooh,
because the whole top was ripped off, which ended up giving me a huge gash here.
wow.
And I had so much blood coming out of me. So I was very fortunate that it was so cold. So my body kept so much of it in. So I didn't have to
Yeah,
have a blood transfusion. However, I had to be helicoptered to Salt Lake City, Utah to get the help I needed.
yeah,
And in this same in all of this, my dog was in the accident and luckily he survived. I'm so thankful for that.
yeah,
So then I get to the hospital. I am in ICU for 10 days. I wake up out of the induced coma within 3 days, super foggy, not understanding what happened. They tell me what happened, and I'm just like, well, now what? Like, what? I'm just in shock. Like, what am
yeah.
I supposed to do? And then I hear this inner voice within me saying, this is but a moment. And then
Oh, that's good.
that's what gave me the
That's good.
drive to get better because I
Yeah,
realized I have the choice. I get to decide my future.
yeah,
This is not my future. I'm not going
yeah.
to be stuck in a bed relearning how to walk and how to use my brain and not being able to do so much. So
Right.
nowadays, I mean, I'm a travel blogger, an influencer, a speaker, a
Yes.
mind and body coach, and an author. Because I mean, one thing's not enough for me.
Yeah.
Oh, and a mom. I can't forget that one.
Oh, can't forget that. No, you can't forget. That's the best teacher of all things. All things.
Yeah,
The mom part.
yeah.
That is so awesome. Yeah.
Mm,
We have that in common because I did have one of those. That's what I call my aha moment with my direction
yeah.
and where my life was going to go. And I had a serious car accident. The same, but I was in the hospital 43 days. 43.
Mm,
It was bad. It was really bad. And so, but I saw it as this opportunity. Doctors saying I wasn't going to be able to do this, and it's like, nah, I'm doing that. I'm talking back to
yeah,
them. Nah, I'm doing that. Nah, and it was just like you said, it was my real aha moment that I get to choose now.
yeah.
Everybody chose for me until this very point. Now I get to choose. And ever since then, I have been a force to be reckoned with. And that was New Year's 2006, going into
Oh,
2007. Okay. So I've been a force to be reckoned with ever since then. But I love your story. I love what you said. Is like you sat there and said, I get to choose. And that's wonderful. And you're doing all these amazing things. And that's really beautiful in itself. How did you segue into traveling after this horrific, accident? How did you segue into that to travel?
mm. So I'm a bit stubborn. Um, I think I stayed in South Dakota healing and did the therapy and everything for maybe a month
Okay.
or two. And then I was
Okay.
like, I need to get out of here. So then I got a friend to pick me up and bring me all the way to Northern Cali so I could work there
Okay.
and get back to work. And I know this sounds a bit nuts, but it's like I could feel that's what I needed to do. I needed to get away from the people that were just seeing me as paper. Like, the
Right.
doctors or nurses sometimes look at your chart and they're like,
Right.
oh, ah. And
Yeah.
I had to get away from that. And I had to get away from people that knew what I was going through.
Right.
Because the work that I did in Northern Cali, I was a weed farmer. So I worked with the plants and I was out in nature all the time.
Right.
So being within nature, it's like
It's a
the
healer.
best way to
Yes.
heal. And
Mm-hmm.
being around those plants and everything, I felt so much better being surrounded by all that and not around people that are naysayers or thinking that
Exactly.
I'm messed up
Exactly.
for the rest of my life.
Right.
So that was,
That's good. I love that. I love that. In your travels, when you're traveling,
yeah.
do you ever have any of those challenges with the brain injury happening, or no?
So in the first year of me
Okay.
healing and everything, I got married, which is people are like, oh, she's really messed up in the head now. But
You
but
go, Danny. You go.
But no, it's that man, he saved me from me because
Yeah.
since I am stubborn, I would overdo it because I could only do an hour of work a day without my
Right.
like my body would be in so much pain. I mean, I had fractured my neck, so I was almost paralyzed um, from the accident,
Yeah.
and I was almost decapitated because my if I was any taller, my head would have been taken off in the
Yeah.
accident.
Yeah.
And all of this extra stuff was put on of my healing process. And he would like force me to go to bed and make sure that I would just watch movies or do something else. And
Yeah.
because he worked with me in Cali. And then
Yeah.
it was over time, I think both of us realized that we almost lost each other. And so we got married, and our honeymoon was a road trip through the US. And that's what we did. And it definitely was hard. That first 2 years
Yes.
was very difficult being
Yeah.
married and healing because
Yeah.
the brain wasn't connecting every time it should, or common
Right.
sense wasn't always there.
Right.
Um, and then I think it was also on that honeymoon we went to Mexico. Um, and that went fine, but there were some times where you just didn't get those little social norm clicks.
Yes.
Like I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't get them.
Yeah.
Um, so I would maybe kind of days off in La La Land, and just people
Right.
look at me like, "What's wrong with her?" But
Yeah.
it's like when I did that, I was actually healing within myself, and I just didn't get
Okay.
that social norm etiquette that, hey, maybe that's not so good to do in front of all of these people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Mm-hmm.
I didn't care because I knew what I needed, and I needed it right then and there.
Right. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. So, if audience, if you see this happening, this is good information.
Mhm.
Just as you don't know what people are going through. You don't know what's happening, and you have to keep that mouth shut and that brain from trying to judge. That's all. Just wait a couple seconds to figure it out. And that's all it takes is patience. And I think that's where patience really is being patient with other people and that are not the normal, that or what we call normal, or just being patient with people in general. Just in general.
Mhm.
I think that's a fabulous thing. I love how you just migrated into traveling, and who knew you were going to go on a honeymoon? That
Yeah. Well, I mean, my husband, he's a Swede. So he's from
yeah.
Sweden. That's why I live in Sweden
Okay.
now. And
Okay.
then before before that road trip, I had traveled to Peru to meet up with him when we were just
Right.
friends and
Right.
did my first solo trip. So that's when I actually started falling in love with travel before my
Yeah.
accident. And
Yeah.
then I grew up going on road trips all the time in the US because I have family all over the place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of been in me for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you go on travels now still?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm I'm a little jealous of my son because he's been to 6 countries now and he's 3.
Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh wow. Yeah, you're jealous. I'm jealous too. I'm a little jealous of that one. That's cool. That's really great. So, talk to us about the Wandering Heart. What made you write it, and what? Give us a little bit of tidbits about what it's about.
Yeah, so this book that's going to be coming out at the end of August, the ebook version, it's all about my traumatic brain injury. So it's loosely based on that and my healing process. And I have it written in first person. So the reader gets to experience everything I'm going through, like through my mind. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it it can be a bit brutal at times, like
Mm-hmm.
because you get to pretty much experience my accident and
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool.
how caught up I get in my mind while healing. Because I've looked around and I think I've seen a couple books that are about traumatic brain injuries, but
Mm-hmm.
they tend to be at a doctor's perspective or someone with a
Yeah.
PhD. And it's like I haven't seen so many that's like someone actually went through it in his writing that's just a normal person that doesn't have all these specific scientific words to back them up, or they just know how it was for them personally. Because
Mm-hmm.
a traumatic brain injury or any kind of brain injury can be completely different for one person compared to another person. And that's
Okay.
another reason why they say it's a hidden um, disability, because you can't always see it. I mean, someone looks at me, they're not going to know that I had a traumatic brain injury.
No.
And
Mm-mm.
and there are some people that have traumatic brain injuries, and you look at them and you can tell because something's a little off. Like you might
Yeah.
see that they had something with their face or something going on. And but that's not the case for every brain injury.
Right.
Mm,
That makes sense. That really does make
yeah,
sense. Um, I like that you wrote it in first person. I really do. I
yeah.
like that. What is your favorite part of your book? If you can share that with us.
Oh, the favorite part of my book. Oh man. Ah, that's it's really hard to be like a specific one.
Okay.
Um, However, I think it might be the first chapter because the
Okay.
first chapter gets right into it, the nitty gritty into my accident right away. And
Oh, okay.
I think I like that so much because it pulls me in. Um, and it makes me realize like how intense this was because there have been times like before I realized that I should write this book, before I started doing these podcasts, I
Hmm.
didn't realize that this was such a big deal. I was like,
Yeah.
I had a traumatic brain injury, no big deal. But then the more I've talked about it, the more I realized that, holy crap, I had a traumatic brain injury
Hmm.
and I could have
Hmm.
lost my life. I could have been paralyzed the rest of my life. And I mean, all the things I've accomplished, like I've learned that I can inspire so many and give so much hope to so many others
Yeah.
because I didn't give up on the fact of getting better and I kept pushing forward. And since I found out that my story can help so many, like, yeah, that's what gave me the drive to do this book and to get
Yeah.
this out there.
That's good. That's good. I like that. If you could speak to any person out there who's listening who may have had some traumatic brain injury, what encouraging words or something that you can give them to
I would
strengthen them?
yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely have to say gratitude. It is the most important thing to do. And it's like for me, when I got that news, the sheriff that had found me, he was going to be retiring in 2 weeks. And I think it was a month or two later, he found out I was in California, found my number, and called me. And he told me, he's like, I can't believe you're able to talk, let alone be able to walk and do things. And he's like, did you know you fractured your neck? And he's the one that told me all that. And
Right.
so at that moment, I dropped to a chair next to me and I'm just like, holy crap. And I was so full of gratitude because it could have been so much worse.
Yeah.
And that's the case for anybody. Any situation can be worse than it is at that moment. And you have to
Absolutely.
have that gratitude and realize, oh, I have, and be thankful for what you have. Because I
Yeah.
mean, not everyone has a roof over their head, not everyone has supportive people behind them, not everyone has I don't know, there's so much. Not everyone has legs. Not like there's
Hmm.
so much to be happy for.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's important to be have gratitude because I know every part of, and I know for you too, every part of you waking up, blinking your eyes, thankful for my eyes, thankful for this,
Yes.
and then after the accident, you're looking in the mirror like, wow, all this damage done. Thankful I have my, you just thankful that my hair. I had to be thankful for that. Um, I was my legs were my the biggest bone in my body was crushed, and then the other one's dislocated in my hips. So I was looking like a turkey that you eating at Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Everybody had their fill. My legs are like laying like that. So I had to I had to go through that. But I was thankful most of all for the doctors I had,
mm,
um, for the people that came around me, because they gave me 20% to live, and I was like, I'm not dying. I just knew I wasn't dying. I just knew it. I just felt it all over me. It wasn't. And I remember one of the doctors came in and he says to me, why is she awake? Now, mind you, I just had the car accident. I woke up after it, and I'm telling the nurses, put a pillow over here. This hurts. I'm talking and I'm just talking. Just my daughter's like, Mom, do you know you were in an accident? And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't remember. What are you talking about? And she goes, Mom, just you got to calm down. And she's crying. I see my mother and I'm like, what's going on? And I'm saying, hey, I need some water. I'm thirsty. What happened to my boots? And the doctor walks up and he goes, why is she awake? And he's like, yeah. So they had to put me in a coma because that's how strong my will was.
Yeah.
And, and I woke up several days later, but I didn't know. And when you have will, when your will is, this is just a moment, like you said, it's just a twinkling in time that to get you on this track, you were probably off track, but now you're on the right track, and it feels so much better, you know.
Yeah, definitely. And that's crazy. You're how you made that so visual with the turkey or the chicken. I'm just like, oh, intense.
Yeah, that's how I was. I was just like that. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. But yeah, you're thankful for it, and I always say it was one of the best days of my life because it started me on the path to freedom.
Yeah.
Because I was not happy where I was. It was, everything was miserable. It was just, I was miserable, and like I didn't know where to go, what to do. And yes, it's impactful. It changes your whole being, your body and your mind. you know but it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. I now knew how to live for real.
Mhm. Yeah.
I knew how to live. So,
Yeah.
and stay alive and live in that, just live in that moment. It's such an impactful thing for me.
Yeah.
And I know for
Yeah.
you as well.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you with that
Yeah.
because I there are still some people that look at me strangely when I'm like, I'm thankful for my accident. I'm
Yeah.
thankful for going through
Yes.
that, even though it was, 8 years
Yeah.
of intense times and everything. I'm
Yes.
thankful for it
Yep.
because I grew so much from that
Me
and I
too.
learned so
Oh
much.
my
Yeah,
gosh, so good.
I bet you did. I bet you learned so much.
You do. You learn so much.
Mm.
So tell me, I want to ask you one thing. Did you, right after that, did you, like, once you started, getting back into the swing of things, did you ever drive again? Or did you have some intrepidation about driving?
Oh, I think I started driving like that first year
Me
because
too. I was like, and my kids were like, "Are you okay to drive?" I was like, "I think so. I got my license, right?" I was like,
yeah,
"Just started driving." I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And where I had the car accident, um, I go by there now, and I just, and I was like, it doesn't even affect me. It doesn't even affect me. But the guy that got me out of the car was an ex-fire chief, and I
mm,
ran into his yard. Once I hit the cars and stuff, I ran into his yard, and he's like, "You're gonna be okay." And this was like early in the morning, early in the morning,
mm,
like 6 a.m. So it was. I know that all was kind of orchestrated by the universe, and
yeah,
it just was the best thing, really the best thing. Um, Shows resilience. It had to, bring out our resilience, right? Our resilience, our tenacity, our grit.
yep,
It brought about all those beautiful things, and that's what we need in this journey to give back to those that we serve. So it's
hmm,
it's a it's a great thing.
yeah, definitely.
So I really want to thank you. Oh, tell us when you're coming out with the Wandering Heart.
Yeah. So the ebook version's coming out at the end of August, and
Okay.
then the paperback's coming out, I think, at the middle of September.
Awesome, awesome. So we're gonna look for that, the Wandering Heart, ladies and gentlemen. All
Yeah.
right. So thank you so much. This brings us to the end of the show, but
Mhm.
we're so glad you're here. If you want to leave a message under the audio, make sure you leave a message. You want to leave one for Dani? Please, I will give it to her. Just press that button, talk into the mic, and I will send it right over to her. If you're watching me on video, make sure you put like, subscribe, and you tell other people about it. But leave a comment. We want to hear what you got to say about this whole subject. Thank you so much for being here. This is Edna White and my esteemed guest, Dani Rosenblad James, saying bye for
Thank
now.
you.